Hi guys, welcome back to Grit Gym. Today we're going to go over a few different things that we're really refining out here as far as how we do our programs. And I do have the Ron Swanson Bacon and Eggs shirt on today, but I like this shirt. It feels nice and soft. But Grit Gym is a personal training studio in Iowa City, Iowa. We deal with people who don't want to get injured when they want to make progress in the exercise world and the nutrition world and the health world, but they don't want to get injured. The last thing that you want is to get injured. And too many gyms are promoting this idea that are perpetuating a problem that creates injuries. And one of the things that we're going to go over today is how we're refining back to get very clear on how do we prevent injuries in the first place, because that's the number one thing you got to do. You got to prevent the injuries, which means you got to have the right exercises, you got to use the right exercises, and you got to teach them in a way that is just savagely close to how their body needs to move in order for it to not be injured. And we know that from a spine research, from some of the experience stuff that we've had around spines, is that the people who tie their shoes the wrong way, the people who lay down the wrong way, those are the people that have the worst spines. So one of the things that we're getting into a little bit more is how to is into the lifestyle that you guys do live, and because really the accumulation of stress that you're going to have outside of Grit Gym will have much more of an effect on your body than the accumulation of stress that you do while you're here. There's 168 hours in the week. You're going to spend maybe 3 to 5 of them in Grit Gym. So that means there's going to be a lot more out there that leaves 163 to 165 hours of stress that you can have. And if we're talking about sleep, which is one of the things we're going to talk about as we get into this presentation, I'm going to try to make this as concise as possible. I want to get this thing done in at least 12 minutes. But if we want to get we're going to have to talk about sleep. Now, I will say, before I get into this, I'm going to mention this later. If you are sleeping on your stomach, there is absolutely nothing I can do for you. Your back pain will never go away until you stop sleeping on your stomach. If you sleep on your elbow on your side like this and you wonder why your elbow hurts all the time, well, I got the reason for you. Stop sleeping on your side. I cannot do anything if you're stuck in this position for 6 to 8 hours every night. Okay, so we have to get very clear on some of that stuff. I also, if you're reaching down every time you reach down to tie your shoes, every time you reach down to pick something off the floor, if you are doing it and your back is going like I can't even make my back do it, it's going into that position, we know that we're going to have a problem. If you're rolling over in the wrong way, we know that we're going to have a problem. So we're going to go over a few of these things, and we're going to go over some stretches that we're basically just outlining. We're just saying just do not do them. To me, I pride myself on, I'm not having the microphone, so I'm really happy to project my voice. You guys can let me know in the comments section if you can hear me very well. But I really pride myself on, this is something that goes through my head, is that you're never going to hurt yourself on my watch. So if I see you doing something stupid, I'm going to stop you. So if I see you doing chin-ups and your shoulder is going like this while you're doing the chin-up, you're beating up in the front of your shoulder. You should be in this position at the top of your chin-up. And if you are doing it, your shoulder will never get healthy until you stop doing chin-ups like that. So we have to get very clear on this. There's some different things there. We're gonna outlaw certain stretches, like the sleeper stretch. The sleeper stretch is one of those dumb stretches that physical therapists still use, and it's one of the number one ways that you can disqualify a chiropractor or a physical therapist. If they prescribe you the sleeper stretch, they have no clue what they're talking about, and you should never go back to them, and they should go out of business. But one of the first changes that we're making is rolling patterns, okay? So when we get into rolling patterns, I'm actually gonna tilt this down a little bit. When we're getting into rolling patterns, this is one of these things that I think that we've gotten a little bit lax on. I think typically what we do, we teach the upper body to reach this reaching across the body to get ourselves to roll over, right? What I don't think that we've done a really great job of is adding in that hip extension. We just kind of think, oh, they'll do it. If they reach, they'll do it. But no, I think that we should drive with that hip. We should really use that hip to roll over. People are like, Adam, this is so true. I almost did it right there. So if I want to roll, I want to drive with that hip and reach across my body to be able to roll over. And you're like, well, this is trivial. It's not that big a deal. I don't roll over that often anyway. You roll over in bed, you roll over, like every time you put on a pair of pants, every time you put on your socks, tie your shoes, every time you sit down in a chair, like you do more of these movements than you think. And the way that you move and the way that you accumulate these movements is going to matter. So that's one of the things. Now, if we're getting into rolling, we want to drive off of that hip, or drive with that hip through that foot. We also want to reach at the same time, because we want this to remain the same. We don't want to do this. Okay, we just flex the spine, we put it in a bad position, we just press those vertebrae together. It's no good. What we want to do is get this big hip extension here. We want to reach at the same time to flop over, because then it's a roll. My spine, instead of it rotating and torquing against itself, we're going to extension flexion. It's just roll. All I'm doing is rolling over and letting my spine do its thing. And I'm getting to here, and then I can crawl my way up to one knee, and then I can stand. If I want to get down, if I want to get back down to the ground, I need to slide my hands down my thighs, get here so that I'm back into my hips, so I'm using my hips to support myself, and then I need to take one knee down, other knee down, crawl my hands out, and then I can roll, and then I can roll back, and then I can roll up. That's how we want to take care of our spine. The people that get down on the ground and get back up the best, I've never had a person that does what I just did, just naturally. The people who just do that naturally, they do not have spine problems. The people who get down like that's a better way to stand up, but the people who get down like this, those are the people that have spine problems. Okay, not the other way around. And it's not always in your spine that it doesn't always show up in your spine. Sometimes it's shooting pain down your legs. Sometimes it's overdevelopment of the quads. You know, really heady quad people tend to be the people that beat up on their low backs the most. It's the people that kind of walk like this. They kind of shift side to side when they walk, because really what's going on there is they're just twisting their stuff around. So that's one of the things that we're doing. Okay, so how much further does this go? Well, this also goes into Turkish get-ups, because how you do the Turkish get-up is the rolling pattern that I just used. If I get into the rolling pattern, I just did a portion of the Turkish get-up right there, right? So if I get into the rolling pattern, this hip is significant. We like to think, oh, we're going to start that like a sit-up, but it shouldn't be a sit-up. It shouldn't be a sit-up to here. It should be a roll to that elbow, and we need to roll with that hip. We need to bring that hip through to roll to that elbow. So it shouldn't necessarily be this and then that. It should be this big drive. This elbow and this hand should be digging into the ground, while this hip is providing force through the foot to get us to here. We're trying to get as much distance between this hand and this elbow as we possibly can before we extend and we bridge. Okay? But that first initial point to there, that's a hip. We need to drive that hip, and I know that's how RKC teaches it, but I don't think in Grit Gym we've been emphasizing it enough, because we've been emphasizing all the other movements, and we're just saying, oh, just roll. But we need to say, drive at the hip. Okay, so if you're doing a Turkish get-up and you want to take massive responsibility for your core and your trunk and your spine, then you need to get that big hip extension. It doesn't need to be explosive like that, but you need to get that almost like like my butt's gonna cramp up kind of movement to protect your spine. So that's a couple of things, the rolling and the Turkish get-up, that we need to be doing to refine that hip extension with in regards to how you roll over, and to not underestimate how big of a deal rolling over really is, because we do that metaphorical same movement all the time. The Turkish get-up is movement. How you do the Turkish get-up will dictate how you do everything else, because it's bracing, it's bridging, it's anti-rotary, it's an overhead lunge. It has everything involved in it. So if you can get to the nitty-gritty details of every single piece of the Turkish get-up, you're going to do very, very, very well. A couple of the other things we're doing, we added an in-body, which is a DEXA scan that takes not a DEXA scan, it's a bioimpedance that is extremely close to the accuracy of a DEXA scan. We added that out here so that we can get more accurate measurements on people from time to time without having to sacrifice. I hate the scale. We'll say it that way. I think the scale is just a garbage use of a measuring device. All it's doing is measuring your relationship with gravity. You put me on a scale, I weigh about 240 pounds. You put me on an in-body, instead of me saying, oh, I'm 240 pounds, I get to say, hey, I'm 13% body fat, or I'm 12% body fat, or 10% body fat. Then I can work on my body fat percentage, and you can increase your muscle and decrease your fat, and you can look at the ratio between the two instead of just looking at your BMI and saying my height, my weight. All right, so that's one of the things that we're doing to kind of refine some things out here so that we can, I think that goes into a mindset thing. There is like some harsh reality in seeing a scale. But the scale doesn't tell you anything, whereas like a body fat percentage does. One of the things that I don't think that we've talked about enough out here at Grit Gym is that being overweight is one thing. Being overweight just means you have a little additional body fat that you probably don't want to have, right? It's not the end of the world. But in our society today, world today, I think people are underestimating what the word obesity means. At this point, we associate obesity with fat. Oh, you're just a little fat. You just got a little extra fat that you don't need. Obesity does not mean fat. Obesity is a disease. Okay? It's classified as a disease. It is where your body has enough fat that is actually impeding your health to the point where it is killing you. Obesity is a disease, and you have to look at it that way. So if you are in an obese category when you do an in-body or a body fat percentage or some kind of body composition, then you know that you need to lose some weight, okay? Anybody over 300 pounds needs to lose some weight anyway. 300 pounds is just getting, and plus, there is some significance to the BMI. I realize I just trashed it a little bit ago because it's only a relationship between your height and your weight. So it really doesn't, we like to get, throw it under the bus. But at the same time, we know that statistically, the higher BMI you are, the more joint and arthritic problems you are going to have as you get older. You're going to have more broken bones, more surgeries, things like that. So it is significant in that regard, but at the same time, it's a little silly. Now, we went over some of the spine hygiene stuff. How you tie your shoes. You need to put your foot, you either need to lay down on your back to put you should lay down on your back to put your pants on. You should lay down on your back to put your socks on. You should lay down on your back to put your shoe and tie your shoe. Or you can put your foot up. I need to roll, and then I need to just sit out. Or you can put your foot up onto some kind of surface, like a high chair or a high stool, and then bringing your foot to your chest rather than you reaching down to your shoe. You don't want to tie your shoes like this. It's a bad position to tie your shoes in. I talked about sleep just a little bit ago. Spine hygiene and sleep are not correlated. This is too much of a correlation to call it only correlated at this point. Okay, if you sleep on your stomach, there is nothing anybody can do for you. There is nothing anyone in this world can do for you if you are spending 6 to 8 hours a night on your stomach. You are trashing your low back. If you sleep on your elbow like this, 90% of the time, I'd say, I don't have actual numbers on this, but I bet you 90% of the time, probably over that, I'm being extremely conservative there. These are optimistic that 90% of the time that I get an elbow issue that comes in here, like, how do you sleep? Do you sleep on your side? And they say yes. And I say, do you sleep on your side, like with your elbow up by your shoulder, like this? And they say yes. Almost every time that it's an elbow issue. Why would that be a thing? Well, we're cutting off blood flow to a very intricate little joint here, and we're holding it there in that position for 6 to 8 hours a night. And you wonder why your elbow hurts, or you wonder why your low back hurts. How you sleep matters. How you do your lifestyle matters. If you are a person that sits on a desk all day long, it's no wonder that your ulnar collateral ligament feels like shit all the time. It's because you're sitting there on your elbows and you're doing this the whole time. Okay, so we have to look at lifestyle factors. I think this is something that we've done a decent job of at Grit Gym, but not like an awesome job. I think in terms of people's programs, we've done awesome. Looking at their lifestyle, asking them questions about what they do. In terms of their programs that they do in here, we get a handle on that. However, consulting people on what they need to do outside of here, I think that we could do a better job on. So that's one of the things that we're really working on now, is to get a little bit better. And then exercise refinement. I said that I would talk about this a little bit. We haven't ever really done a lot of sleeper stretches out here, and I don't really ever want to, on this show, if you ever catch me doing this, please let me know, because I did it on accident. I don't want to pose a problem without giving a solution. I think that that's wrong. I think that's something that's really wrong with like the news and politics and a lot of the issues that we're having right now. And there's so many things that are turning political that I don't understand why they're political in the first place. But if you're going to introduce a problem, then you better come with a couple solutions. And so I don't see the point. If you want to show me a problem, you better show me a solution, and then maybe I'll give you 3 solutions and you give me 3 solutions, and we come up with the best one. It's perfectly fine for me. But don't come to me with a problem without a solution. So if you notice me doing this on the show, please tell me. But the sleeper stretch is one of the dumbest stretches. I think it's just a stupid stretch. Okay, you're pinning that shoulder blade to the ground, which is fine. You're getting your elbow here. You're supporting your head usually, and then you're forcing this into rotation. Keep in mind, this is the most vulnerable, the absolute most vulnerable position that you can put your shoulder right here. Just like that. This is the same reason we don't do upright rows, and it's the same reason for a lot of stuff. But if you push this shoulder into further into rotation, you might be engaging the muscles in the posterior cuff, but you are only adding tension to the tissue that is already full of tension. Okay, for one, you are not actually lengthening the tissue. You're lengthening it in the sense of the stretch, but all that lengthening does is increase the tolerance to the stretch. We're actually just increasing the tolerance of the stretch right there. We're not actually increasing the distance that we can actually go. We're not increasing the integrity of the shoulder or its ability to move. We know that if we find that we don't have enough internal rotation, we will not get it through the sleeper stretch. There is no physical therapist that can prove that this is a thing. What we do know is that we can do things, we can put, I just did poor spine hygiene, did you see? That's poor spine hygiene. So we do know that we can take a lacrosse ball like this, or we can use one of these, I forget what these are called. Oh, the Acu balls, and we can go right below, we can get into that, below that scapular spine right there, and we can dig that in, and we can roll on this to put some pressure in there, and then we can do kind of some cross-body kind of reaches and internal rotations to get that. It depends on the shoulder, it totally depends on the shoulder. I'm using broad strokes here. So that was kind of creepy. I'm painting with broad strokes here because no 2 shoulders are exactly the same. But we know that this works a little bit better. To do some of these more cross-body reaches, digging in to the cuff back there. Like for me, it's kind of right around in there where I'm starting to feel kind of more of and we can work some internal rotation, kind of get some more motor control in that shoulder blade so that so the body feels comfortable letting us go to these places. There's so much neurology going on with the shoulder that I think that it needs to be addressed also. And if you're wondering if it's better to have a muscular issue or a neurological issue, you want it to be neurological. Because if it's neurological, you can fix it immediately. So for instance, if you sit up nice and tall right now, and you externally rotate your arm as far as you possibly can, and you're like, go as far as you possibly can. And that's as far as you can move it, right? And you're like, okay, so go ahead and do this with me right now if you're in a place where you can. Sit up nice and tall, externally rotate your shoulder as far as you can without rotating back. Okay, that's as far as you can go, right? Now, note where that arm is. Go ahead and look down and be like, okay, I'm about 65 degrees out to my side. Now go ahead and take your arm straight up overhead, put it behind your head, keep that rib cage down while you do this, and then go straight out to the side. Holy shit, I just went like 25 degrees further. Why is that? It's neurological. When I went like this, my brain is smart enough to stop me before it thinks that allowing me to go into injury. When I put my arm above my head, I gave it a new pattern, and all of a sudden I'm out to go. I'm able to go further. This is the snake oil stuff. It's just your nervous system. It's just how it works. It's really, really pretty cool and intricate and amazing. But that's just one thing. You can do it with your head also. Like you can hold down your rib cage. This is a goofy one. These are called oral drivers, and you can look to your side. You can say, okay, is that as far as you can move your head? Yes, of course it is. Okay, so do this with me. Hold your rib cage down, turn your head. That's as far as I can move my head, right? Okay, what happens if I look back behind me? I'm going to turn my head, and I'm going to look back behind me. Oh my gosh, you just went like another 4 inches just by looking. Now I can take that even a step further. I can turn my head, I can look back behind me. Is that as far as I can move my head? Maybe. What happens if I put my tongue in the right side of my cheek? So I'm looking back behind me, I went like another inch. It's an amazing, amazing thing what your nerves will allow you to do. And we have to take this into account. So not all of the stiffness that's in the posterior cuff of your shoulder is just muscle stiffness, and that's just how it is. We just need to stretch it more. No, stretching is probably impeding your progress. Stretching is probably hurting the shoulder more than it's helping the shoulder. Too many physical therapists out there and strength coaches and chiropractors think that stretching is the answer to all things, and it's not. Sometimes, and more often than not, it's about addressing an adjacent joint. Whether that adjacent joint it has too much tone, or it's in a bad position, or it's a breathing pattern thing, or it's a stability thing. I don't know. For instance, if you have a lot of upper trap problems, I almost guarantee you that getting down in a position with your right foot forward, your left foot back, and hanging out into a lateral lunge once a day for like, let's say 5 deep breaths on each side. Let's do that 3 times a day, and I almost guarantee you that your upper trap stiffness will almost disappear within a week. Is because you took care of the issue. You took away, you made your intercostals do what they're supposed to do instead of breathing for you. And you might not be one of these people. I'm again painting with broad strokes, but you're taking away an intercostal that is a breather muscle and making it a lateral stabilizer like it needs to be able to do. And then the diaphragm has to drop the way that it's supposed to drop. No longer are you able to go like this to open your air, to open your lungs to breathe in air, because breathing is pretty important. So your body's going to do anything it can to bring air into the lungs. And therefore, you stop doing this 20,000 times a day, which is what the average person breathes. And if you think that sounds like a lot, do the math. Time yourself. How many breaths do you take in a minute? Take that times 60. Now take that times 24. That's about how many breaths you're going to breathe in a given day. And it's probably pretty close to 20,000. 20,000 repetitions like this would make a very stiff upper trap, right? So do we want to stretch that? Or do we want to breathe better? And do we want to breathe better via a provocative core exercise like the lateral plank? It's going to be much, much, much better off. I talked about pull-ups a little bit. Your shoulder will never get better until you get better at doing chin-ups. Okay, if you're doing chin-ups like this, and you're shrugging the shoulders and you're letting that drift forward, what you're doing is you have all of these structures that are pushing out against the inside of that shoulder, and they're just digging in and digging in, digging in, digging in, digging in. And they're gonna have a lot of problems eventually. It's no different than if you're trying to squat really deep when you don't have the hip dysplasia to be able to do that. If you are smashing your shoulder, so this bone and all these other structures into all the tissues on the inside of that shoulder, you're just begging for a problem. Okay? I see this all the time. People are like, well, I don't want to get rid of, I have to keep on doing my chin-ups or I'll lose the ability to do a chin-up. It's like, first of all, no you won't. But even if so, let's think of the logic here. Would you rather have a healthy shoulder that doesn't hurt all the time, or would you rather be able to do a chin-up that hurts every time? So pick, and I don't think that's a decision for me to make. Would you rather be able to do the chin-up poorly and say, oh, I can do a chin-up? Because maybe you do think that that's better off. Or would you rather walk around every day with a hurt shoulder? I mean, you make your choice. That's completely up to you. Okay, so chin-ups and pull-ups, they need to be down. You need to bring your chest up first, shoulder blades back, and pulling down and together. You also have to be able to hit an overhead shoulder flexion, like I'm doing right there, without the rib cage flaring out, and you need a very strong rotator cuff. You need those 3 things. Rib cage cannot flare. Shoulder has to be able to hit full shoulder flexion, straight up and down. No wiggle room on this one. 0 wiggle room. This is not trivial. This is a big, big deal. This is a huge muscle. Your rotator cuff is a little tiny muscle. You are putting it through a meat grinder every time that you do a chin-up, like what I just showed. And you're putting, whether you do a perfect chin-up or not, if you don't have the rotator cuff strength for it, you don't get to do it. So, rotator cuff has to be strong, rib flare cannot happen, shoulder flexion has to be there. Okay, spine hygiene, take care of your spine. It is the only one that you're gonna get. And although it can replicate and regenerate its own, it can heal. This is something that a lot of professionals will tell you can't happen, but we've proven it over and over again that spines heal. They heal just fine if we allow them to heal. But we have to allow them to heal, which means we need to take back and stop injuring them, which means that when you roll over, or when you lay down, it's gotta be something like that. When you roll over, it's gotta be something like this. Okay, I got a little belly shot from you there, didn't you? So it's gotta be hip drive, roll. So you've gotta have the hip drive and the reach to get to this position, and then you need to crawl up, see how that didn't move, and then you can get to this position through your butt, and then you can go into a lunge to stand. Okay, you have to practice good hygiene. How you spit your toothpaste out at the end of the night has to be done correctly. You have to shift back into your hips, spit out your toothpaste, and then do your thing. When you tie your shoes, you have to pull them up. You have to pull your foot up to you, not the other way around. When you put on your socks, lay on your back. When you get down on the ground, it's going to be one knee down, other knee back, slide, walk the hands out, and then you're going to roll. Okay, this is how you do spine hygiene. Okay, you have to take care of your spine. Do not sleep in your stomach. Do not sleep in your side with your elbow all jacked up. Do not do chin-ups and pull-ups until you are absolutely qualified to do chin-ups and pull-ups. And that's the majority of the things. That's some of the stuff that we're really going over this month. The rolling thing took me a while. I spent like an hour out here just getting down, standing up, getting down, standing up, getting down, standing up. And I didn't know why. I didn't know what was going on. I was like, something's going on here. We're missing something. I don't know what it is, but we're missing something and I don't like it. And I want to make some changes, but what are we missing in how we're teaching the rolling patterns? And what are we missing in how we're teaching the Turkish get up? Like, what's going on? And I just spent like an hour just like rolling, just practicing rolling. And I was like, I don't know if I'm doing this for no reason or not, but I was just out here for like doing it over and over and over again. And all of a sudden it hit me. And I'm like, we are not teaching this during the Turkish get up. We're not teaching hip drive in the Turkish get up. So when you do the Turkish get up, make sure that if this is I got the wrong arm up. If this is the arm that's up, we're driving with that hip. I don't think that we've taught that. I think I've seen too much of this, like making a sit up and not enough rolling to that elbow. So make sure that if you're gonna do the Turkish get up, that you're driving with that hip, rolling up to that elbow, not sitting up to that position. Anyway, I think that's what I have for today. If you guys liked the show today, let me know. If it was informative, please comment down below. Really like to hear from you. That's some rolling stuff on rolling patterns, Turkish get-ups. I skipped split stance RDL, which I'll go over, let's say, next Wednesday. Spine hygiene stuff, exercise prescription related, what stretches not to do. Please, if you go to your physical therapist and they ask you to do a sleeper stretch, fight them on it. Question them on it. Question me on it. If anybody comes out to Grit Gym and they don't, I'm not a big fan of arguing with people. Like, I don't want to argue with anybody. Like, that's just kind of about as fun as hemorrhoids. But I don't mind being questioned. I want you to know why we're doing the thing that we're doing. There better be good, solid reason for every single thing that we do. Watch how you sleep. How are you waking up is more important than how you're going to sleep anyway. If you're waking up on your stomach, you're sleeping on your stomach the majority of the time. So keep working on falling asleep on your back. Keep working on falling asleep on your back. Eventually your body will figure it out. You're training your body to do anything, no matter what you do. If you sit all day, you're training how to be a better sitter. But anyway, thanks for being here, guys. I'm going to shut this one down, but I appreciate the time that you guys take to be here with me, and I hope you guys got something out of this. It's a pretty sweaty one, but you and Ron got to hang out. All right, thanks guys for being here. Really appreciate it. Please like, comment, share down below. We just want to help a lot of people. My goal is to help 1 billion people in my lifetime. I don't know how I'm going to get it done yet, but you being here helps. So I really appreciate it. Thank you. Like, comment, share. We'll see you tomorrow.